Hey
Hi.
everyone. Hi, this is Abhay. Again, I am with another guest of mine, Christine. So, the concept with this channel again is to let everyone know of the different difficulties that people face. I bring on new people every time I meet, and I try to discuss with them what had happened during the pandemic for them, how was the journey that they went on, and how they got here. And today we have with us Christine. So, just a bit of an introduction. So Christine is currently pursuing her PhD from Stony Brook University in music history. She has a great knowledge of music history, which is amazing to me. She's a great singer, and she's done a great deal of work of how what music is and how does it affect your body. That's what her current research is. She has her bachelor's in arts from in music from Williams College in Massachusetts. Thank you very much, Christine, for being here with us.
Well, I actually started doing music as a performer. I got my first singing experience back in fifth grade doing a musical theater production with my fellow classmates and just fell in love with singing. And just from there, it was always, I was amazed by how like emotionally moving singing could be for me and for others in the audience, and like the experience of going to musical productions and performing in them kind of got me interested in music generally. And I did that all through high school and college. And in college, part of my music study was also music history, especially there was a focus in that curriculum on Western classical music history. And I was getting very excited in my history classes about how the historical context of a piece of music fit in to the story of how it became like something that was like moving to people, and that's still kind of what I think about today.
Great. So, how the history of that music leads to and fits into the music that is produced, right? That's interesting. That's really great.
Yeah.
I really wanted to know what if someone asks you what's music to you.
The issue is it's quite there's actually quite a complicated like theory around what is music and what is sound and what's the difference between those two. So academics go back and forth a lot on the definition of music. But I would say to me, it's if I'm able to be really abstract here, it's like
Sure.
the experience of vibrations. So sound as vibrations, think about waves traveling through the air, and it's
Yeah.
not just heard sound, also felt throughout the body. Um, and that experience being like perhaps arranged in such a way or experienced in such a way that it has like a particular effect, that it's not just totally random. And I think a lot of times, so I get the sense of a thing being music because it like
Yeah.
it moves
Yeah.
me to some emotion, or it changes how I thought about something, or it changes how I thought about the space around me through this kind of like use of vibrations, use of sounds.
I also feel that your current work that you're doing in your PhD, kind of the research that you're focusing on is how music affects your body and how does it
Mm-hmm.
affect your mind. Could you talk to me
Yeah.
about a bit about that?
Sure. So a lot of the work that I've done has not been as much in the hard sciences of effects of music on cognition or on the body, even though I think those areas are interesting. A lot of it has been through analysis of my own experiences. So thinking about where do I feel sounds resonating in my body as I'm hearing them. I've done some analyses like that. As a singer, I've also like recorded information about my singing experience with a particular song. For example, I sang and it was actually a song with music originally by Orlando Di Lasso.
Mm-hmm.
And I sang the different parts and talked about how my experience singing that melody um, related to kind of historical values that were around that melody in the time when it was first kind of published and stuff like that. And so I guess using my own singing experience to talk about how in the case of this piece, there were amateur singers who like would have been singing at home themselves, and like how their experience might have been by like embodying that myself.
Okay, so maybe so could you talk a bit about, like, so when you say embody that, you mean how does it affect certain parts of your body? You mean something like that?
Like doing it with your
Okay,
body, like in this case actually singing the piece, being involved as if I were one of the amateur singers from in that time period. It was the 16th century, end of the 16th century.
right.
That's the sense in which I'm using it. But like when people say embodiment, it can
Yeah,
also mean the effect on the body. And I still like, yes, I study that in a very like subjective way, not talking about, oh no, whether or not my levels of a certain hormone went up, or
yeah,
whether, you know, those types of things.
yeah. Because that's really interesting, because I've read some papers on this of music and how that affects certain part of your body. There's this called ASMR music that people really like and hear, and you know
Mm-hmm.
some say they like to hear white noise while they're meditating. There are different meditation kind of musics or meditation vocals that people have, that they would like to like hear. So there's also something like a concentration music that's like really prevalent in right now. If you just search concentration music on YouTube, like concentration music for studying, you can get like a list of different piano tunes, a list of different tunes that you hear. And I have personally just gone through a bit of them, and I feel that they really they help you in some way. They just don't let you go. They don't let you lose your focus. What really happens in that is that, and that's what I've just felt, is that a part of your brain just switches off, I guess, because it's focused on that particular noise or that
Mm-hmm.
particular sound or that particular thing. So if we focus on that sound and our work at the same time, we kind of are using almost everything that we have, all of our brain, you
Yeah,
know, and that would
right.
really help, and that's true. Yeah, music has really been a great
Yeah.
impact for a lot of people. So that's great. I also want to talk to you a bit about some problems, and we were talking about this before also, right? Some problems that you feel music history has had, and in terms of the academic work that's being done there. What kind of problems do you think that has been there in music history specifically?
Oh, of course, yeah. So something that actually the faculty at Stony Brook are doing a great job working on has been kind of there's been an old tradition in music history where the curriculum has tended to focus a lot of times on Western classical music history and on um, Western classical or European ways of understanding and interpreting music. And so all the faculty and students this year have been working on like a comprehensive effort to kind of reform that curriculum so that it's inclusive of many more traditions, and also like meeting other student needs that maybe go beyond just that type of inclusivity. So thinking about how to schedule classes in a way that's like much more accessible to students, or to like imagine the path to the music major in a way that students can do even like in a variety of situations. So I think that yeah, that's one of the things that maybe I suppose it's almost that it was a problem because now we're working on it, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
something that the music industry, music history
Mhm.
pedagogy like around the world kind of has to, or at least in the US, has to deal
Right.
with,
Mhm.
of like how do we continue to make our curriculum more accessible and more inclusive.
You mentioned a point about where people from different places might get into music history. Could you tell me a bit about that? Like, what kind of problems you felt like in terms of academic work was there that that was not focused, where people could not get into it?
I think that it's more, it's not that people have a hard time getting into it, more so
Okay.
that the resources are very limited to
Okay.
like Western European perspectives,
Okay.
to the point where like people are welcome, of course, um, but like people who are interested in studying things
Yes.
outside of Western classical music history have a bit of a harder time getting through the curriculum than do people who are interested in Western classical music
and
history.
and and why is this that the case? Just because there's not enough information?
Um, I think that it's a combination of things, but it goes back to actually the founding of musicology as a discipline in the United
Okay.
States.
Okay.
And there's a wonderful article that a scholar named Tamara Levitz has written
Mhm.
to this effect about this history, that basically the establishment of larger institutions of musicology in the United States, such as the American Musicological Society, happened in the context of like a certain elitism, and it was like a Euro supremacist elitism where Western classical musics and people who studied and wrote and performed those musics were considered more elite or knowledgeable or scholarly or more likely, or were just simply more likely to be hired for positions where they would be teaching. And then, of course, it was a cycle because once people were hired for those positions, people with more experience in that, in teaching, in as professors, in giving papers at conferences, those were the people who were hired again. And so it became
A chain.
like a
Yeah.
cyclical thing where this was the knowledge that the people who were in teaching positions had.
Right.
And I think it's multi-generational too.
Okay. Right. Yeah, that makes sense, right? That's true. I also wanted to talk to you a bit about the pandemic. The pandemic has really been hard on almost every industry that we can think of, right? So how has the pandemic affected the music industry?
Um, in the music industry, I would say, first of all, for performers, it's been incredibly hard. Anyone who
Yeah.
wants to give a live concert, just all of those opportunities have been put to the side. And I've heard that it's a financial problem as well as an emotional one. I know a lot of people are saying, I miss just being on stage and performing and having that connection with an audience who's in the same room.
Yeah.
Um, and I know plenty of people who have like been able to get together an income still through teaching and other means, but it's definitely harder when that other source of income from gigs
Mhm.
is more difficult to come by.
What is the one piece of advice that you got from someone?
I would say I've gotten a lot of great advice from my older colleagues, and
Mm.
especially the advice that in a PhD, it's okay if things take time to
Yeah.
materialize. Like, I'm starting to do research and define what my specific topic of research would be beyond just a more general understanding of like music and the body, which is too broad for any dissertation.
That's something that's true, because some I have certainly gone through this, that you work on something for quite a lot of time, and you feel that I have nothing to show for it. And people ask for, in the when you go out, they ask for publications, they ask for some kind of a communication you have had in a journal, or you've presented your work somewhere. You don't have that kind of stuff. And just because your research you're working on has not been materialized doesn't mean it's nothing. It
Mhm.
has value, and it has
Yeah.
a lot of meat in it. It's just that you haven't been able to like write it down in some form. Or also, just some sort of last things. What kind of an advice do you feel would you be giving to someone who just started out, who's just starting out in this music industry? You know, he or she doesn't have even a bachelor's. He's just interested in music and how does it affect you, the body, the history, and stuff like that. What would be your advice that you want to give to
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would say to that person that it may be economically not the most easy industry to get into right away, especially if you're pursuing a PhD. It takes a while before you can be in a position of earning a lot of money, feeling like perfectly financially secure. Basically, taking the time to pursue that passion and that interest can be worthwhile. Even so, it's not. I would say it's not an easy path, but it's a path that has made me feel a lot more worthwhile. Like my time is a lot more worthwhile than it was in my. I took a gap year in my between undergrad and graduate school,
Okay.
where I was working just at any industry job. It didn't matter, so my
Yeah.
time felt a lot less worthwhile than it
Understood.
does now. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
the
So
advice.
your passion was really into studying music and understanding it. So that 1 year taught you
Yeah,
that, exactly.
yeah.
Makes sense. What kind of a career do you focus on, or do you think of you would be you would be working on after you finish your PhD?
Well, I'd love to continue to teach and to do
Okay.
research, likely at a university level. That's where I would apply.
Mhm.
But I also am interested in teaching at all levels, and I'm interested in jobs that are adjacent to music history research, other jobs that include research.
That's great. Yeah. Tell me where can we find you if you want to? How can we connect with you?
I do have a couple of YouTube accounts. You can
Oh, great.
subscribe to those.
Great, thank you. That's would be great. I'll just put the link down
Okay.
for everyone to just have a look. What do you make a YouTube videos about? What do you work on? Do you
Um,
sing and put them there?
I've posted some of my singing on YouTube in the past.
Great, great, great.
Yeah.
I'll After this video, I'll just go and have a look at them too. I know that you sing well. I really know that because I've heard you there. But
Mhm.
yeah, I haven't heard the recordings, so I'll just have a look at that. Thank you very much, Christine. Thank you very much,
You're
Christine, for
welcome.
doing this.